Welcome to Love Talk. I'm Gregory Morgan, a normal human being that has issues. Dealing with those issues will cause the issues to perpetuate. Whatever you focus your consciousness on, whatever you focus your attention on, whatever you focus your awareness, your caring, your waking hours on, will have a tendency to expand. What I have found is that it perpetuates the issue. The issue is always there in the present moment, So there's an approach that we have in Embrace Growth that actually encompasses your future. And it encompasses your future without that little bit of the past in it. It involves communication, healing, forgiveness. It involves saying what needs to be said in a manner that is responsible for your life and that forwards the conversation and forwards your life in positive and empowering direction. Most people are focusing on the pain, the suffering, the discomfort, the lack of communication, overall dysfunctional relationships in their life. And as long as your focus stays on those problems, the problems continue to persist. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that you should not focus on your problems or pay any attention to them. However, if that becomes the center of your life, then it has a tendency to become who you are. So people, even though they may not say it out loud, they will think it, oh, here comes so-and-so with their money problem, or here comes so-and-so with their sex addiction, or here comes so-and-so with their alcohol problem, or here comes so-and-so with their relationship issues. They won't say it out loud, and some of them may not even think it consciously, but subconsciously, people begin to relate to you as your problems and your issues. Why? Because you're focused on them. That's become who you are. So when your problems and your issues become who you are, what you're talking about all the time, what you're always trying to fix, what you're spending money, time, and energy addressing, become the center focus of your life and ultimately take over your life and become a who you are, like an identity. That's a very slippery slope, because when your problems become your identity or the core of your identity, for example, you might say, I am an incest survivor. Okay, incest survivor is a very powerful identity. It's a very powerful identity. It's claiming ground here, and it can become a way for people to hold themselves apart and hold themselves, even though they're wounded, they're in pain, even though they're incapable of having a healthy relationship, they will hold themselves apart from relationships and say, oh, well, I am an incest survivor, or I am a cancer survivor, or my father left me. Any number of things like that that people will hold on to, and it becomes a cornerstone of your identity. And by a cornerstone, I'm referring to or speaking to an architectural term. A cornerstone is an architectural term in which they used to lay the foundation of a building when they were going to build a grand building, and they would come and make quite a ceremony out of setting the first stone. The cornerstone of a building in architecture is the stone from which all the other measurements and diagonals are drawn, so that everything relates back to that cornerstone. You see, so even though it's a very small, minute, maybe even under the ground part of the building, usually part of the foundation, if you will, so nobody knows it's there except the architect, the designer of the building, and the builder, the cornerstone becomes the point of reference from which all other measurements and architectural decisions are made and oriented around. Can you see how that would apply to you in your relationships with your issues, with your parents, with your body, with your level of education, with how good looking you are or not good looking you are, with how much you weigh, whatever your issue is, whatever it is that you're calling your issue, and they usually occur in clumps, like a series of issues that seem to be separate, but actually they're all interrelated because they are related to this cornerstone, this core issue. And this core issue becomes an identity for you. And it is very, very threatening, if you will, if somebody questions that identity. If somebody says, wait a minute, that's not who you are, of this, you're something else. This is just a point of reference. It's something that happened in the past. It's not who you are anymore. It can be very threatening to the individual, and it could be very threatening to the other individuals that are related back to that individual. In other words, if that individual happens to be a mother or a father or an important member of the family or a group of any kind, then other people who are sympathetic to that issue will collect around them and get oriented, and they'll all work together to make life work. For example, they'll start a group that will be like the anti-abortion group, because somebody had an abortion and it was very painful, or some issue about abortion. Or they'll become the anti-gays, or the anti-Christians, or the stop killing the whales. They'll become oriented around an idea or an ideal that supports the ongoingness of the issue. What issue? The cornerstone issue, the one issue that nobody wants to address. And they certainly don't want the issue to go away. Even though it's causing suffering and it's diminishing your possibilities in life and holding you back and keeping you from being fully self-expressed and fully alive and vital and physically expressed, this issue doesn't get addressed. It's like hands off, we refer to it as the hippopotamus head in the dining room table that nobody's talking about. Some big ugly thing that everybody can see and knows is there, but we all don't talk about that. I'm going to take some calls. If you have one of these kind of issues, let's talk about it. Hello, this is Gregory. You're live on the air.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I want to know what is the difference between psychologist and life coach. Is it possible that life coach that works like a psychologist, somebody that's life coach therapies?
There's a difference, and you're saying life coach, and I'll go ahead and use your language, life coach, but a coach of any kind, whether it's a life coach or a swimming coach or a running coach or a boxing coach or any kind of coach that you might have, is very, very different than, say, a psychologist. And I'm going to tell you exactly what those differences are, okay? And it's not only different from their approach, but it is different from the point of view of the results that get produced, you see? For example, is there something that you really enjoy doing and you wish you were better at?
Yes, I do know. I like to be life coach. And I want to know that can I work with a person, individual or not?
I understand that you want to be a life coach, but I thought that I understand that now. I thought that you were asking me the difference between a coach and a psychologist. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, I asked because I heard that somebody told me that life coach cannot work with individuals, then because the board of psychology, they cannot let the life coach work with the people. Life coach can speak, that's it.
Well, a life coach, I am a coach, and I do work with individuals, and here's the thing. A lot of people who are life coaches will tend to take on bite off more than they can chew, so to speak. In other words, if you're a life coach, don't try to be a psychologist, because they're very, very different, and that's why I wanted to take the opportunity to tell you the difference. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, thank you so much. If you explain more about a life coach.
Yeah, the difference between a coach is a coach is somebody who assists you in becoming better at something that you have a plan on doing. So let's say you wanted to become a marathon runner. You wanted to be healthy and you wanted to run long distances. You would need to get a coach. A coach would help you keep running whenever you want to stop. A coach will also help you become a better runner so that you don't hurt yourself, so that you can go longer distances without getting injured, and also teach you things that you couldn't possibly have seen in yourself by yourself. So because they have an outside point of view, they can point out things to you that you maybe don't even want to see. So a coach will often tell you things that you don't want to hear, show you things about yourself that you don't want to see, so that you could be what you want to be. You see, we all have hidden parts of ourselves, things that we don't address or look at. And to us, we're blind to it. We call them blind spots. You have a blind spot. Everybody has blind spots, parts of our own character that we have a difficulty in seeing on our own. And when we get very, very challenged, that is when we push ourselves to the edge of our limits and abilities, very often those blind spots come up and will stop us, or they will sabotage us in making the progress that we want to make. So a coach is somebody who helps you to identify those blind spots and to pass through them and get to the other side, to have a breakthrough, if you will. To get through to the other side of a barrier that is only an internal barrier that you have, you see. Most barriers that we have to progress are internal. They're a mental attitude. They could be, some of them may be physical, but physical things are pretty easy to overcome once you overcome the mental attitude about it. There are certain states of mind and beliefs that we have about ourselves that are very, very limiting and that hold us back and keep us from being all that we could be. A coach is somebody who identifies the goal with you and assists you in propelling yourself past your own barriers so that you get to where you want to go and be who you want to be and have the life that you want to have. So a life coach actually coaches you in your life. A psychologist, and I'll say one very important thing about a coach that is different from a psychologist. A coach assumes there's nothing wrong with you, you're perfectly healthy and normal, and that you have barriers just like everybody else, and that you're going to be empowered to pass those barriers. No problem. They're going to help you do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You helped me a lot.
A psychologist is different. You go to a psychologist thinking that there's something wrong with you. Do you see the difference? One assumes that there's nothing wrong with you whatsoever. You're just fine, and now we're going to help you overcome some limitations, some self-imposed limitations. A psychologist, or the field of psychology, I won't say a psychologist, I'll say the field of psychology is based on a premise. And the premise is that there are neuroses, psychosomatic illnesses, psychosis. In other words, there's a huge list of illnesses, mental illnesses, you see. So as soon as you say ill, you say dis-ease, you assume that the person is not well.
Yes.
You assume that the person is not well and that the source of this not wellness or this dis-ease is in the past. That something happened in the past, and now this person has this illness that they have in their life and that they're kind of stuck with it. And so a psychologist works with you to overcome or learn to cope with or deal with a dis-ease or a lack of mental and emotional wellness. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. So to go at that approach, me personally, I don't believe that people are diseased. If there are people who maybe were born with hormonal imbalances, or who've had severe emotional experiences, and those experiences are influencing the decisions that they make in their life. And those bad decisions that they keep making over and over and over are giving them a really bad life. And the really bad life is giving them a really bad state of mind. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's not a disease. That's making bad decisions based on the past.
Yes. Right.
That's just like not very smart. If I take it from the point of view of a coach, a point of view of like, look, you're not diseased or sick or crazy. You're just making bad decisions. Let's make some good decisions, and let's deal with this thing from the past, which I help people to do through a transderivational search is what it's called, where I state of trance. I do hypnotherapy with my clients. Mild state of trance in which you're fully awake and aware and alert. However, you're very calm and relaxed and very focused. And this is a perfect state of mind for looking at source of issues in the past. So we go back to those issues. We address the issue in such a way that it dissolves. In other words, it literally, like a cube of sugar in the bottom of a cup of tea, it dissolves and it just turns into nothing. Once that issue has dissolved, the person's outlook on life totally changes. And not only that, just like you couldn't put a sugar cube back together after it's dissolved, you can't put this old issue back together again. It's gone. It's just gone. And now you have a person who's lived a life full of decisions based on the past, but the source of that issue is gone. Now they have a brand new life, or a brand new way of seeing their life, and they have an opportunity to design a life that empowers them. That's where a life coach comes in, you see? Because nobody ever taught you how to design a life that empowers you, did they?
No.
No, that you don't have that in your environment. Nobody does. Hardly anybody does. Mostly what we have in our environment are people who are in codependent relationships, who have some form of addictions, and if they're not addicted to a substance or gambling or sex or something, they're addicted to each other in a way that's not healthy. That's the model that you inherited. That's the model I inherited. How many people are watching this show that had a perfectly happy, healthy, normal relationship with their parents who had a perfectly happy, healthy, normal relationship with their parents, right?
Yeah.
Hardly anybody. It's very rare to meet a person like that. And I promise you, even if you did, they would have some other issue, okay?
Thank you so much. You have
You're welcome.
a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that's great. They gave me an opportunity to speak about the difference between, addressing issues from the past, which, it's important to do that. However, it's important to do it with the intention of having them dissolve. And I want to really examine the language here for a moment. Mostly when we have a problem, and that means you have something you don't know the answer to, basically. To have a problem is no big deal. It just means that you have a question that you don't know the answer to. That's not a problem, is it? You just simply don't know the answer to a question. Most people try to solve their problem. When I work with people, what I do is I work with them to dissolve them, to dissolve them, to make them literally go back into the fabric of life. So the difference between a life coach and a psychologist is we don't solve your problems, we dissolve your problems, and we work with you to create a powerful new outlook on life and have the tools to reinforce those on your own. Wouldn't it be great if every time you sort of got dull and edge on your knife began to get dull, that it self-sharpened, so that you don't keep going round and round and round trying to solve the same problem in more bitter and different ways. Hello, this is Gregory. You're live on the air.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Morgan, for your program. I watch it every week. I have a question. I just want to know what happens that one loses the enthusiasm and then starts to procrastinate whatever that once it was very excited about it, and that was what definitely wanted to achieve, and then gradually it vanishes and then it starts to become kind of not so excited about it, and then that's when the procrastination happens. And one question is this because sometimes we consult it with some friends and we share it with them, and that is when they really pour some water to the heat of your enthusiasm?
That's a great question.
To know your idea about this.
One of my rules, and it's kind of unfortunate, but I've had to make a rule for myself about this to address that very last part of your question, and that is don't share your dreams with people who cannot or will not do something to promote them. In other words, don't share your dreams with people that are going to say, oh, you can't do that. Don't share your dreams with them. Do not talk to them about it, because they will do what you just said. See, sometimes your dreams are so big they threaten the people around you. Have you ever heard the adage that all truth is at first feared and criticized, then violently opposed, and then accepted as commonplace?
Yeah.
Yeah? At first, new ideas are can be violently opposed. Everybody says, no, that's not going to happen. That'll never happen. That's not even possible. You go, yes, it is. Look, I'm almost making it possible. I'm on my way. And then they will actually do something to smash it down. Say, see, I told you. And if they don't succeed in mashing you down, if they don't succeed in knocking you off course, if they don't succeed, if you keep getting back up and you actually prove that you envisioned is possible and you manifest it, then they all act like, well, of course I knew that all along. That's how people are. I've seen this in my own life a number of times. I left home when I was 12 years old. Everybody said, oh, you'll be back in no time. And they were right. I did. I came back a couple of times. But by the time I was 14, I finally left, and I never went back. And I educated myself. Everybody said you can't do that, and I did educate myself. And then I said I wanted to be a musician and play in rock and roll bands and sing and stuff. Everybody said you can't do that. I did that. And then I became a professional dancer, and I toured all over the world and did 200 shows a year for a number of years. And everybody had said, are you kidding? You can't even do that. I didn't even start dancing till I was 21. So everybody says it's too late, you can't do it. When I was 27, I said I'm going to move to France and open a school school of dance and theater and martial arts. And everybody said, you don't even speak French. You've never taught these classes before. What makes you think you can go do that? So I went and did that. So do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
You can live an amazing life. You just got to be careful who you share it with, who you share your dreams and visions with, because some people I would say these dreams and visions to, and they'd say, oh, great, that sounds awesome. Can I help? I want to do it too. Can I come along? Right? And other people would be sitting back in their, stirring their coffee and saying, that's never going to happen. You can't do that. Who do you think you are? And that kind of stuff. I would just go, oh, okay, they're not coming. I'm not going to talk to them about it.
How do you pick up the people that they will empower you and really feed your enthusiasm? I mean, how do you understand who has these feelings among your friends?
Okay, great.
By being them positive or what?
This is something that you're already an expert at because you're a woman. You're already good at this, so you have an intuitive sense of things. And as human beings, we learned facial expressions and intonality and everything, and body posture and nonverbal language before we learned to speak. We learned from watching humans as infants. We learned body posture and language and facial expressions, and we're all experts at it. As a species, we're the best on the planet at recognizing faces and seeing things. And then women are even better at telling the mood and feeling, tone, and emotional state of another person, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah, you're very good at this, okay? So you already have the ability, and for the most part, people take this ability and they kind of put it on the back shelf somehow. It's almost like they turn it down, it's background music, and they're focused on their everyday life, and this sort of inner knowing that we have, it's been muted. And one of the things that I do as a coach, and that I recommend that people do in general, is to turn that up. Actually, if you're in a room with your husband or boyfriend or whatever, and there's somebody else in the room and so forth, even if if you're reading a book and he's doing something else or whatever, there's a kind of silent communication that's going on, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, something that's there that you can't quite say in words, maybe, but you're aware of it. I'm saying people should just turn up the volume a little bit and listen. Listen to what's going on between you and other human beings just a little more. Now there's, if you were in one of my classes for NLP or hypnosis, I would train you in another way. There are certain physiological signs, breathing, the skin tonality changes, the eyes actually change, and the muscles around the eyes will change. Also, the way people's eyes move will tell you what they're referring to. So and how they sit in relationship to you, and the words they use will tell you a whole lot about what's going on inside a person. It's almost impossible for somebody to lie to you, for one thing. They have to be very good. And so you have these abilities and you can tune into them. That's the answer to that question. How do you notice when you start to share something with somebody? Are they lighting up like a Christmas tree and going, wow, that's so great? Or do you see them shifting around and becoming uncomfortable, acting like they're looking away or something like that? Don't talk to those people about that. Ask them about their dreams. Just say, hey, enough about me. What about you? And then, talk to the people that are interested, that light up, that get excited about what you're sharing. That's one thing, okay? You asked me another question about motivation, yes?
Yes.
Lack of motivation or procrastination comes around when you have a very positive thing that lights you up and turns you on, an idea, a dream, a project, and you have it associated with a very negative thing. So for example, I don't know, it could be I want to lose weight and be really trim and sexy, but you associate that with starving yourself and working out really hard and achy joints and having to get up early and all that stuff, right? The negative thing that you've associated it with pops up as soon as you think sexy body, hard work. Sexy body, no sleep. Sexy body, oh, forget it, right? Whether it's sexy body or whatever it is for you that your dream or your vision is, you have to keep finding more positive things to associate it with. And I actually do a thing in neuro-linguistic programming where I create trigger points that when you trigger these points, they will actually motivate you. And I can do one with you right now, okay? This will benefit everybody. Are you alone?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to invite you to stand up if you're not, okay? And I'd like you just to stand with your feet sort of shoulder width apart and in a very relaxed way, just standing there. And then I'd like for you to get a really strong picture in your mind, a time when everybody was congratulating you, applauding, and just saying, wow, this is awesome, this is great. And if you don't have a past experience, create one. Create one in your imagination, because the subconscious mind doesn't tell the difference between a real or imagined experience. So they're the same. Okay? So now imagine a time when you were being acknowledged publicly, standing ovation, a crowd is cheering you and going, yes, yes, and they're all cheering for you. And they're saying your name, and they're just, tears coming down their eyes. They're so happy that you've just had this huge, whatever it is you've accomplished. Now, as you feel that emotion begin to rise up in your body, I want you to, all emotions have a peak. There's a moment where it comes up, and then it starts to go down. When it gets to that peak moment, as that emotion rises to that peak moment, I want you to take your left fist and squeeze it really, really hard as you can, hard as you can, hard as you can. At that moment of the peak, the height of that emotion, just squeeze it as hard as you can, okay? And then as you feel the emotion start to diminish, you just release it. And then I want you to envision this dream of yours accomplished. I want you to see yourself surrounded by family and friends. You're all looking out at whatever it is that your dream or vision is, the physical manifestation of it, this thing. Maybe it's a ceremony that's taking place, or it's a physical place, or something that's happening. Whatever it is for you, imagine standing with your most beloved friends and partners and family, and they're all gathered around you, and they're touching you, and they're congratulating you, and they're all so happy that this is just happening. And as you feel that emotion rise in your body, and you feel your neurology and your body straightening up and receiving all of that acknowledgement, you'll start to feel a sort of tingling and a sensation of wellness and excitement. And I want you to squeeze that left hand really, really hard and anchor that in. Anchor it in with your left hand. Just squeeze the fist really, really, really hard, and then release that. Now, we could go on and do this several more times. You don't need me to guide you now. You get the idea, right?
Yes.
You create a vision, okay? And you can say the words if you need to. This time I created pictures with words, right? In your mind. I said words that made you have images in your mind, yes? It didn't matter how many people were watching, they all had some kind of an image in their mind when I said that. That's what neuro-linguistic programming is. Words change neurology. So your neurology produced a picture, and that picture produced an emotion, yes?
Exactly.
And you had a certain emotion, and what we did with this, it's called an anchor point. You created an anchor point with your left fist. Now, why the left fist? Because most people shake hands with their right, or they write, or they do stuff with it like that. And this is an anchor that you could use, under the table at a restaurant. In other words, it's invisible. You could do it in your pocket. Nobody has to see you doing it. You could create that anchor at any time. Let's say you're about to go speak in front of a bunch of people, and you're very nervous. Just trigger your anchor, right? And that emotion will come back. Try it right now. You'll see what I'm talking about. Just wherever you are, just squeeze that fist really hard, and you'll see. See what I mean?
Yes.
It comes back automatically.
Makes you very steadfast to your goal. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
yes.
You are more determined.
So now what we've done is we've taken your goal and your vision, your dream, whatever that was, and you don't even have, I don't even have to know what it is. Only you have to know what it is. And we've anchored it in your neurology, and the image that we anchored is of the event having already taken place. Do you understand? Now you have an already event, this goal fulfilled, anchored in your neurological system. You can access it anytime you want. From time to time, you might want to reinforce this anchor with new visions. And if you find that, 6 months from now, it's not working so good anymore. I squeezed my fist and I didn't get the jolt of energy. Start again. Re-anchor with a bigger, more powerful vision. And you will see, it can be any kind, the anchor can be any physical sensation. You could touch your wrist. That would be the same thing. It would do the same thing. I use this one because it's, like I said, something that you can, you could have your hand in your pocket, or you could be driving a car, or you could be doing anything, and do your anchor. Got it?
Perfect, yes.
Yeah, so motivation is neurological. Motivation is not psychological. Motivation is neurological. It's in your nervous system. The lack of motivation is simply because when you think of your vision, what comes up with it is something like can't be done, too much work, whatever negative thing that you have associated with it, I suggest that when that comes up, I want you to act just like you do in a computer, right? I want you to highlight highlight that thought, and I want you to say out loud until you don't say it so loud so everybody thinks you're crazy, but you just go cancel, delete, and you watch it disappear. I do that all the time. I have bad thoughts. They pop up. I think I'm going to do that, and then this bad thought comes up, and I go cancel, delete, and I just go about my business. It goes away. In other words, I'm taking control of my own mind. My subconscious mind has negative thoughts and feelings just like yours, but I take control of them. They don't take control of me. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So lack of motivation is when the negative thoughts and feelings in your body which are going to always be there, and especially in your environment. If you have negative people in your environment, they'll keep trying to make sure you feel negative. They don't do it on purpose. It's just that's how they feel, so they think it's true. You see? You can just go...
Let me ask you this question. Sometimes I think these wonderful thoughts, dreams that we want to accomplish, if we did not have this ability, I should talk about myself. If I did not have that ability to achieve it, it would have never crossed my mind. It would have never come to my mind. Do you agree with me? Or
absolutely.
Anthony?
I absolutely agree with you. I would say it like this. If you can dream it, you can accomplish it. If you want it, then you can do it. I don't believe that you have unattainable dream. You might have some fantasies sometimes. I mean, if I dreamed that I'm going to stand up out of this studio and go fly home with my wings, that'd be kind of crazy, right? But
I'm talking about
normal, stuff that can actually be done. Yeah, right.
Achievable goals, yeah.
And you know the difference. Yes, they're certainly achievable. If you can dream it, then you can do it.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
Thank you so much. It really helped me. I didn't know that it is in your nerve system that it's actually weakening you.
Yes.
You have to anchor your strength and determination. Yeah, that helped. It's just like what you call it. You're putting yourself together and centering yourself to whatever is in your mind. I don't know. It did something by pressing my fist and
Well, you're sending a strong reference point, a signal. You're giving it a jolt of energy so that it lights up, so that the powerful idea lights up and has a place to live, so that it's anchored in you. That's why they call it an anchor. Just like if you're out at sea, you might be anywhere. When you put your anchor, then you have a tendency to stay pretty much where that anchor is, right?
I see, sure.
Yeah, so your boat may drift around, but you'll stay pretty much close to that anchor. So you want to create deep anchors in the subconscious mind, and that is a neurological phenomena. Scientists are now discussing, like a big discovery, something that meditators have known forever. They just didn't verbalize it this way, that the surface of every cell in your body, and I don't know how many billions there are, okay, but there's billions and billions of them, has a neurotransmitter and receiver on it. So every cell in your body is a transmitter and a receiver. Now think about that for a minute. Every thought that you've ever had was immediately translated and communicated to every cell in your body.
Wow.
Okay? Your cells are constantly in communication. So it's vastly important to feel good, to be in an environment that makes you feel good and that you feel good about, and to give yourself thoughts that feel good, and to get rid of thoughts and people and circumstances and locations that make you feel bad. If you just feel bad every time you walk into some environment, stop going there. That's all there is to do. Go someplace that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It's just common sense, but...
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks. Bye-bye. We've been talking about the difference between psychology and coaching, and we've also been talking about the difference between a lack of motivation and having your dreams and visions connected to something that is very positive, something that is life reaffirming, and also about surrounding yourself with people and events and things that are designed to reinforce this image, designed to actually create a culture that will empower you in your images, in your internal images and in your internal dreams and desires, and an environment, meaning of friends and people around you in your life, and coaches that will actually help you to identify those limiting beliefs and get rid of those, and reinstill in you the new, more empowering beliefs. Can you see how vitally important that would be? So that's what we have set out to do at Embrace Growth. That's actually the purpose of my life. The purpose of my wife's life is to create an environment where communities of people have relationships that empower and transform their very lives. And through those relationships, leave a legacy of love for future generations. That's why we're here. That's what we're up to. And later on, I'm going to go ahead and take some calls. And later on, I'm going to give you some resources where you can have that. But you can always go and check embracegrowth.com, because that's what that whole website's about. Hello, this is Gregory, and you're live on the air.
My question is about the thing you just mentioned about neuro-linguistic program.
Yes.
I just want to tell you that I'm kind of expert in that neuro-linguistic program without any training. It happened in my life, but in a negative way. I can imagine bad things happen to me, and I accept them, and I had the experience of having them in my life. But when it comes to positive things, and I try to replace negative thoughts with the positive ones, I cannot do that. I just feel I'm not deserved for that. And whenever I push myself and try my best to, do something good about, my life, after, 5 minutes, I get back to the first place, and, I just start to believe that, no, I'm not deserved. I just wonder that technique you just explained to the other lady that about pushing the fist, and would that help me to replace this negative thought with the positive one?
Well, it'll help you to cope with it. However, thank you for asking that question. I understand your question. You're very good at programming yourself in a negative way. And so that's not unique to you, by the way. We all are. I believe, I don't think I've ever met a person that doesn't have some internal conversation. I'm too stupid, I'm too skinny, I'm a girl, I'm a boy, I'm black, I'm white, I'm too tall, I'm weak. They have some internal conversation. I'm undeserving, I'm a bad person, I'm unlovable. We all have some kind of internal conversation that we've inherited from the neuro-linguistic programming that was handed down through our family and through our culture, through our religious systems and many, many other things that are in our environment. So you don't escape life without getting conditioned by your environment at a very, very early age. So I wouldn't take it personally. Like when it rains and there's a rainstorm, everybody gets wet. Although you get wet personally, they didn't have the rainstorm just for you, right? You got affected by this, but it's not personal to you. It's part of being human being, because the best I can tell, I've never met a human being that didn't have some of that going on with them, right? How to address it. Neuro-linguistic programming is using the tools that are already native. In other words, how did you learn to be in this negative state? Oh, okay, that's how you learn to do that. Then how would you learn to do the opposite? Well, the very same way, you see, by creating images, because here's the thing with people, and we don't notice it, but words create images in our mind. How we store things, how we remember things, how we reconstruct things. If you have a memory of something, it has pictures with it, and the pictures have words. There's
right? I know about the visualization, and you have to just imagine the things you really wish, or the thing that you want to happen to you.
Right.
But the thing is that I can imagine those, I can create those pictures in my mind. After that, imagine and visualizing those things, I try to say, I started to say to myself, no, that's not going to happen, because this is impossible, because this is not logic, because this is that's going to be that's not going to be ethical, that's not going to be this, that's not, start to rationalize and find all sorts of reasons, saying that it's either illegal, unethical, it's against the law, it's against the, all the things, all the possibility, everything, and I ruin it in that picture. This is the problem.
What you're speaking of is a fundamental, I'm going to say a core belief. There are certain core beliefs. Beliefs give us what we think is possible. I'll give you a really obvious example. Back in the 1300s, right, in the 13th century, people believed that the world was flat.
Yes.
Okay? Now, that wasn't just a belief for those people. That was the truth, and for those people, the world was indeed absolutely flat. You understand? No round world for them, only flat world, and nobody questioned that belief. It was just, in fact, people that did question it got hung. They got killed. They were literally put on trial and killed.
Totally understand it, because I really, because this was really interesting. It has been interested me, and because of those negative imagination I just told you, and the result happened to my life, and totally changed the way of my life. Drastically changed the way of my life. So I really read about it, and because it was really interesting for me. But the thing is that how come do I never started to reasoning that negative imagination? Because somehow those negative images are more, are more unrealistic. But I never questioned them. I never start to, bring any reason or something to, question them. I said, yes.
You're approaching a subject that is one of my favorite things to sort of talk about, and it's a bigger conversation than I can have on just a TV show. But I'll scratch the surface, okay? And the surface of that is, what is the nature of reality? The more science goes into, the deeper we go into space, the more profoundly we look with electron microscopes at the stuff that is apparently solid that the world is made out of, the more we see that it is more and more what you might want to call unreal. Okay, unreal in the sense that there's more space there than it's mostly space and energy. We all know that the world is made up of atoms. However, nobody's ever seen one. You can't see an atom. In fact, looking at it makes it disappear. People that study science actually know that. Okay, that's common knowledge. But we know we're made of atoms, but we haven't ever seen one. You know that there's electricity because there's light coming through your television right now, but you've never seen electricity. You just believe it's there. Yes, in questioning the nature of reality, okay, in questioning the nature of reality, find that there are certain levels of reality. Perhaps the only reality that there is what we call an agreeable or an agreed upon reality. In other words, if enough people agree that the world is flat, then it must be flat.
Yes.
If enough people believe that, I don't know, that there's a red guy with a tail down in the middle of the earth that's going to burn you in hell, then for them that's real.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
How can I start to change my belief system then?
So that is like the most fundamental question that anybody, that is a question worth asking, right? And it's a question worth addressing for the rest of your life. How do I change my belief system? Well, all change, I'm going to use the word transformation, because when you change your belief, you actually transform yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not just the same person with a different belief. It's a different person.
Yes.
Right?
Actually, yes.
Okay, so that's something that's, so I'm going to talk about the difference between change and transformation in saying that once you change a core belief, you have transformed who you actually are. And you can't go back to the old way of believing. Once you know the world is round, you can't go back to say, well, it's flat. You can't go back. It's impossible. You see, change happens in a cycle, and it tends to go back to how it used to be. An apple seed will produce a plant and then produce an apple that drops seeds on the ground back to apple seed, right? So it's a cycle. Human beings do the same thing. We go from infancy back to infancy. But transformation is totally different. It's what you were before, you cannot go back and be again. The mind, once it is stretched beyond its current beliefs and understanding, cannot go back to its old way of being. How do I change my beliefs? In my book is like the most important question you can ask, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm encouraging you to keep asking those questions on a daily basis, okay? How I can change my beliefs is, it first begins with awareness. Awareness that you even have a belief. Oh, this isn't the truth, it's what I believe. You understand? So you begin to question reality. You go, oh, wait a minute, how do I know that that's even true? You can be, I believe that I'm...
Actually, I catch the point that I understand that I've created all these beliefs.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You didn't create all the beliefs. Some of them were handed down to you, most of them.
Yes.
You don't really create your beliefs that much. Very few people do. Most people inherit beliefs from their surrounding environment, and we just don't question it because that's the way it is.
Yeah. Anyway, by saying that, I meant that although I know that I have created, these are not reality, necessarily they are not reality.
Right.
And most of them are just something that, they are just my beliefs. But how can I don't know, how can I change it? How can I change that belief?
Okay, so the first step in any transformation, the first step in any transformation is awareness, becoming aware.
Yes.
How one comes aware is by intending to be aware, It's an act of will because the world is pulling for you to go asleep and accept reality the way it's been projected to you. Do you feel that there's sort of a strong pull to sort of just go along with the program? Yes? Do you see what I mean? In society, in the world, in the culture, there's sort of this strong pull by others, this influence by others, by wanting to be accepted and to be a part of everybody else's life,
Yes,
and
yes.
to not stick out, to not be alone, to not feel isolated. We tend to sort of buy into the general mass walking asleepness that is going on, and to become awake, to become enlightened, to become aware, and to begin to question reality, but like in a positive sense, not like, oh, I don't know about that, but like really questioning reality, like, wait a minute, what's possible here? Maybe that's not so true. That will not make you popular. Do you understand that? People don't necessarily want you to question reality, or at least most people don't. However, it's becoming more, as society is waking up and becoming more enlightened, and that is happening in spite of all the craziness we're seeing around us. People are beginning to wake up. As that happens, then there is more of a pull for waking up. So who you'd want to surround yourself with would be people who are in the process of waking up.
I'm concerned about it. It's just some belief system I've got about my personal life. It's
Got
not,
it.
when I
understand.
about the belief, it's not about the kind of religion or
I got it.
political, point of view.
Well,
it's not about that.
Do you want to speak about one in particular?
With the other people's, belief system. It's something just personal, and I think that you just mentioned that you have to realize that this is just your belief, it's not reality necessarily, and I got that point. Just wanted to go to the next step.
Well, let me ask you something. Are you willing to speak about a personal belief that you have that is limiting you? Because when we speak in general, I have a belief, and
Yes. It's about anything good. For instance, having a better job, having a better relationship, having a better place to stay in. All these things, when I want, I cannot see myself or let myself having better position in the work, in the, in the relationship, these sort of things.
So what would be one of those? Those still a little bit general. Can you name one that's like really bothering you?
Mostly the relationship.
Relationships, like I can't. What's the belief? If you gave it words, what would that belief sound like?
For instance, I started to list the quality of a man that there are those qualities that really are really important to me.
Okay.
And without them, I cannot really. I'm sure that I could not have a good relationship.
Let me ask you this: how many qualities were there?
They are not, that much, but there are some.
Well, how many? Was it 5 or 6, or was it 10 or 15?
10, I would say.
Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to write all those down, and I want you to get it down to no more than 5.
Uh-huh.
Okay? If you have 10 qualities that a man has to have for you to have a successful relationship, then you should get used to being alone, because
Yeah, I
Okay?
understand that
No
all
guy,
the
no
time.
guy's going to be now. Is that my belief? Is that the truth? No, it's my experience that
Yes.
you may have a standard that's a little too high.
I understand the limitation, and
I know about
I
5 or
understand-
6.
I don't live in who has I don't know. I don't live in a that kind of world. But
Yeah,
but
I know about 5 or 6 really pretty, really smart, really successful, great women, right? That guys would love to have for a wife. They're still single and they're turning 40 soon, or already have, or maybe in their late 40s, and they've never been married because their list is too long.
yes.
Okay?
Yeah, but the thing is that in my previous relationships, I had, like you just mentioned, I had 2-3 important things, and guess what? I just had the man with those 2-3 qualities, but the other things that he didn't have was disaster. It was really disaster that I couldn't get on with at all.
Well, now
It just
maybe that's a limitation in you, though. Maybe it could be that it's a limitation in you. And let me say some more about that, okay?
Okay.
Okay? Only you need to live up to your own standards. Nobody else has to, okay? You have standards for yourself, and if you don't live up to them, you're not going to be happy with yourself. But nobody else has to live up to your standards. If you expect other people to live to your standards so that you can be happy, you'll always be unhappy, you see. Now, part of loving, part of being in a relationship, and an important part, maybe the most important part, is learning to have space for and compassion with other people's limitations, other people's lack of integrity, other people being messy or out of whack, right? That's part of being in a relationship.
Controlling person, because when I tell you, let me explain it with this example that make it more clear. Before my last relationship, I all the time consider loyalty as something essential, and it's something that is so obvious you don't need to even talk about it. It's so obvious when two people are together, they have to be together just like that. There is no question about it.
So monogamy. Would it be okay to say monogamy?
Yes.
Monogamy, meaning you two are together, nobody else.
Being with this person, obvious, because that loyalty was so obvious to me. I never listed in those 2-3 list of the quality I was looking for. And then guess what? At the end, I end up to the person that he wasn't loyal at all. And that was the kind of thing that I couldn't get on with. Obviously, this is frustrating, and nobody can, get on with such person.
Of course. So when I was telling you to reduce your list to 2 or 3 things, like 3 to 5 things, what I'm asking you to look for is the deal breakers. Now, there's one of them. You cheat on me, that's it. End of relationship. No relationship. It's either you and me. I'm going to give you 100% of my love, time, energy, sexuality, all that stuff, and I expect the same in return. And if we don't have that, there's no deal. That's a deal breaker. We're out. Okay, so now you got one. Loyalty or monogamy, however you want to call it. You like loyalty, call it loyalty. But that's what it means to you.
Yes.
Right? You want to look for the things that are a deal breaker, okay?
Yeah.
And then you should have some negotiable things that are like, he must be loyal, okay? Maybe non-violent. If there's violence and stuff like that, I'm not going to put up with it. Right? Something like that. You can't be involved in illegal activities. If there's a risk of me going to jail or him going to jail because I'm associated with him, no, that's a deal breaker, right? You might have some things that are like deal breakers. I suggest you look in the area of, is it illegal, immoral, unethical, or dangerous to your health, right? Dangerous to you, right? Dangerous to you, your children, himself, in other words. Is the man a danger to society? Look for things in those areas. Those would be deal breakers. Those would be things that I'd say, don't get around that guy.
Okay.
And everything else. Now, if he happens to be tall, dark, handsome, and rich, that's great. If the guy also happens to be tall, dark, handsome, and rich, that's a plus. But you might find a guy who's loyal, has a great heart, that loves you to death, but is not tall, dark, handsome, and rich. You know what I mean? You might find a guy like that. And you got to ask yourself, can I work with this? What's really important here? you know? Or is that, is that just like it's a deal breaker if he's not tall, dark, handsome, and rich, you know?
How can I accept these things, that good things can happen to me?
So we're back to addressing, and remember if you watch the first part of the show, I talked about dissolving old limiting beliefs. There's a process that I do. It's called a personal breakthrough session. I do a work with people in which we actually locate the source of their belief systems that are holding them back and limiting them in their self-expression. We actually go to the source of that and examine it in a new light, and in doing so, we watch the belief disappear. And I don't make it disappear. They don't make it disappear. You don't have to do anything to make it disappear. It disappears. I'm going to give you an example of what I call interim reality. Now, it's an intermediate reality. There's your personal reality, what's real for you inside yourself and inside your own heart, what you consider to be real. There's what the world out there is saying is real and may or may not be, right? I don't want you to go step in front of a bus and say, well, this is all just energy, right? It's not a real bus. That bus will run you over. Don't go questioning reality crazy like. But there is a point at which you must question reality. I'm going to give you an example. I went to a national park once, and on the way to the park, I got a brochure, and it said, I had a picture of bears and it had grizzly bears and brown bears on the picture, and it talked about there's bears in the park. And then when I got to the park and paid for my ticket to go in, it said, don't feed the bears, watch out for bears, and when you're camping, make sure you put your food up high in a tree so the bears don't get it. I went and I pitched my tent, and I went, built a campfire, and I started to go to sleep at night, and I heard something in the bushes. Now, what do you think it was?
I don't know. The bear?
The first thing, right? It's a bear, right?
Oh.
So, in other words, an interim reality had been created in such a way. That's what advertising and marketing is. There'd been enough talks and pictures about bears in the park that the first time I hear something in the bushes, my automatic nervous system responded like, oh my God, it's a bear, right?
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't a bear, it was a dog. But try to tell my muscles and nervous system, right? I freaked out like it was a bear. If I'd have known it was a dog, I wouldn't have freaked out about that. But, I responded. So my point is, it doesn't matter whether it's a poisonous snake next to your foot or rope that you think is a poisonous snake. Your body will respond the same, won't it? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's really a snake or you just think it is. You still have the same reaction.
Yes.
Okay, with that thought in mind, if you have a limiting belief, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not, you will act accordingly.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So it's important to go and locate those limiting beliefs, question their reality. Is this really true? Am I really stupid? Am I really undeserving? Am I really unlovable? Am I really unattractive? Okay, I came out of a marriage it's been about 18 years ago, okay, and I'd been married for a long time, 15, 16 years ago, before I married my wife, Azita Sayan. I was married before, and I came out of that marriage, and I was in my 40s, and I thought I was just old and fat and ugly, and nobody would ever be interested in me. I was never going to get another woman. It was too late for me. Now, I actually believe that. Now, that is not my reality today, but at the time, that was a belief, and I acted accordingly. Now, I challenged that belief. I went to the gym, and I got a haircut, bought some better clothes, and so forth, and I sort of challenged that belief, and I was able to attract an extraordinary woman and marry her. But you can question those beliefs, okay? It's not enough to question the beliefs. You have to go out and do something about it. In other words, when I questioned this belief that I had several years ago that I would never be, get another woman or anything like that, that I was unattractive, when I began to, if I just sat around and questioned that, nothing would have happened, right?
Yeah.
I had to go do stuff. I went to the gym, I did this, I did that. I did things to change myself. So you can't just question it, you have to do something. And that's why you go to seminars, workshops, get a coach, read books, CDs, DVDs. In other words, you take some action and then put those actions into your life, okay?
Yes,
that's what makes a difference.
And they really didn't work.
Well,
somehow.
Then try some other actions.
Information and help a little bit, but not fundamentally changed.
This is Gregory Morgan. You've been watching Love Talk. Thank you very much. See you back next week.
کارگاه‌های آموزشی بانوان به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان خود واقعیتان و همچنین مردان را بشناسید و با استفاده از قدرت زنانه خود روابطی سالم و عاشقانه بسازید. همبورگ 28 فوریه تا اول مارچ، لس آنجلس 17 تا 19 آپریل، تورنتو 26 تا 28 جون و ایروان ارمنستان 6 تا 8 آگوست برگزار خواهد شد. 310 460 2600 embracegrowth.com.
Embrace Growth has a new home online where you can easily register for workshops and events, order from the online store, and be part of the worldwide community of Embrace Growth graduates. You'll be able to see Dr. Rosita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan in your favorite seminars. Visit us today at embracegrowth.com.
یک مرد منحصر به فرد، مسلط، متمرکز، قابل اعتماد و رضایتمند باشید. کارگاه شرافت، عزت کلام و مهارت به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان. لس آنجلس 13 تا 15 مارچ، تورنتو 16 تا 18 اکتبر و ایروان ارمنستان 5 تا 7 نوامبر. برای اطلاعات بیشتر با شماره 310 460 2600 تماس بگیرید. اپلیکیشن Embrace Growth با ساختن اکانت شخصی شما می توانید وارد پروفایل خود شده و تنظیمات آن را تغییر دهید. به تمامی رویدادها و محصولات دسترسی داشته باشید. با چند کلیک برای سمینارها و کارگاه‌ها ثبت نام کنید و یا وقت مشاوره خود را رزرو نمایید. اپلیکیشن Embrace Growth را امروز از اپ استور دانلود کنید و به خانواده جهانی Embrace Growth بپیوندید.